Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, a television phenomenon of the 1960s and 70s, was a groundbreaking comedy show that shook America to its core. Premiering in 1968, it was a whirlwind of entertainment, delivering sharp wit, daring humor, and an electrifying energy that captivated audiences nationwide. But behind the bright lights and roaring laughter lay untold stories, hidden struggles that many of its talented cast members faced. For some, stepping out of the limelight meant confronting loneliness, failure, and tragedy. As the curtains closed, their lives took unexpected and often heartbreaking turns. Some fell into the grip of illness, others crumbled under the weight of fame, and some met untimely and tragic ends. Join us on a journey to uncover the secrets, the struggles, and the untold fates of the stars of Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. At the same time, we pay tribute to the legacy they left behind, their contributions to the world of comedy and the mark they made on television history, ensuring their laughter echoes through time. Dan Rowan, born on July 22, 1922, in Beggs, Oklahoma, was the suave, quick-witted half of the legendary comedy duo that hosted Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. His early life was marked by hardship. His parents, itinerant carnival performers, left him orphaned at the age of 11. He was sent to an orphanage and later struggled to make his way in the world, working various odd jobs before enlisting in the U.S. Army Air Forces during World War II. He became a decorated fighter pilot, an experience that left him with both physical and emotional scars. After the war, he pursued a career in Hollywood, forming a partnership with Dick Martin that would catapult him to fame. Laugh-In became a cultural sensation, but despite its success, Rowan found himself growing weary of the entertainment industry. Unlike Martin, who transitioned into directing, Rowan largely stepped away from television after the show ended in 1973, retreating into a quieter life. His personal life was complicated. He was married 3 times, first to Phyllis J. Mathis, then to model and actress Adriana Van Balaguyen, and finally to Joanna Young, who remained by his side until his death. Rowan had 3 children, but his demanding career often kept him at a distance from his family. His later years were overshadowed by illness. He was diagnosed with lymphoma, a battle he fought for several years before succumbing to the disease on September 22, 1987, at his home in Englewood, Florida. He was 65 years old. Teresa Graves, born on January 10, 1948, in Houston, Texas, was a striking talent whose radiant energy and sharp comedic skills made her stand out on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. She was one of the few black performers in the show's history, breaking barriers with her confident and charismatic presence. But comedy was only a stepping stone. Graves had her sights set on something bigger. In 1974, she made history as the first black woman to star as the lead in an hour-long network drama with Get Christy Love, in which she played a fearless undercover detective. Despite her groundbreaking success, Graves felt unfulfilled. Hollywood's demands clashed with her deepening religious beliefs, and by the late 1970s, she abandoned her career entirely to devote herself to her faith as a Jehovah's Witness. Fame, fortune, and the limelight no longer interested her, and she disappeared from public life, living a quiet existence caring for her elderly mother. Then, tragedy struck. On October 10, 2002, a fire engulfed her home in Los Angeles, trapping her inside. By the time firefighters arrived, it was too late. Graves succumbed to smoke inhalation at just 54 years old. The industry that once celebrated her had long since forgotten her, and her death was a grim reminder of how fleeting fame could be. Dick Martin, born Thomas Richard Martin on January 30, 1922, in Battle Creek, Michigan, was the wild, mischievous half of the Laugh-In hosting duo. His comedic style, defined by his deadpan delivery and goofy demeanor, made him a beloved television personality. However, Martin's early life was far from glamorous. His father, William Martin, was a salesman, and his mother, Ethel, was a homemaker. He dropped out of college and initially pursued a career in nightclub comedy before forming his legendary partnership with Dan Rowan. While Laugh-In brought him national fame, Martin later reinvented himself as a successful television director, working on hit shows such as The Bob Newhart Show, Family Ties, and Newhart. Behind his on-screen persona, however, Martin struggled with personal and health issues. He was married twice, first to British actress and model Dolly Redd, with whom he had a tumultuous relationship that ended in divorce but later led to reconciliation and remarriage. He had 2 sons, Richard and Carrie, but his career often took precedence over family life. A lifelong smoker, Martin developed severe respiratory issues in his later years, ultimately leading to a diagnosis of respiratory failure. His condition worsened over time, leaving him increasingly frail and dependent on oxygen therapy. On May 24, 2008, he passed away at the age of 86 at his home in Santa Monica, California. Despite his struggles, he remained sharp-witted until the end, and his contributions to television comedy continue to be celebrated. Johnny Brown, born on June 11, 1937, in St. Petersburg, Florida, was a warm and charismatic performer with a gift for physical comedy. He gained recognition as a regular on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, where his expressive face and booming laugh made him a standout. But his most famous role came later, when he was cast as the lovable Superintendent Nathan Bookman on Good Times, a role that defined his career. Despite his ability to bring laughter to millions, Brown's life was not without hardship. The pressure of being a black actor in Hollywood during the 1970s weighed heavily on him, opportunities were limited, and he often felt boxed into roles that didn't fully showcase his talent. His personal life was more stable than many of his peers. He married his wife, June Brown, and remained devoted to his family. However, his later years were marked by health struggles. On March 2, 2022, Brown suffered a fatal cardiac arrest, passing away at the age of 84. The news shocked fans who had grown up watching him bring joy to their screens. Though he never reached the heights of superstardom, he remained a beloved figure, remembered for his warmth, humor, and the indelible mark he left on television history. Judy Carne, born Joyce Audrey Botterill on April 27, 1939, in Northampton, England, was the effervescent, dark-eyed beauty best remembered for her role as the "sock-it-to-me" girl on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. Her infectious energy and comedic timing made her a fan favorite, but off-camera, her life was anything but joyful. Carne's early years were spent honing her craft at the Pitdraffen Academy of Dance and later at the prestigious Bush Davies School of Theatre Arts. She moved to the United States in the early 1960s, seeking stardom, and soon found herself cast in television series such as Fair Exchange and Love on a Rooftop. But it was Laugh-In that made her a household name, only to leave her typecast and struggling for serious roles once the show ended. Her personal life was plagued with turmoil. She married actor Burt Reynolds in 1963, but their relationship quickly deteriorated, marred by allegations of physical abuse and emotional distress. Her second marriage to producer Robert Bergman was equally disastrous, ending in divorce after just a year. Carne turned to drugs as an escape, and her once promising career spiraled into a series of arrests, financial ruin, and heroin addiction. She was arrested multiple times in the 1970s and 80s, and a near-fatal car accident in 1978 only added to her suffering. In later years, she retreated from the spotlight, living quietly in Northampton, where she struggled with health issues. On September 3, 2015, at the age of 76, she passed away from pneumonia. The woman who once made America laugh had spent her final years in obscurity, a tragic contrast to the vibrant star she had once been. Flip Wilson, born Claro Wilson Jr. on December 8, 1933, in Jersey City, New Jersey, rose from a troubled childhood to become one of the most beloved comedians of his era. As a guest performer on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, Wilson's quick wit and laid-back delivery made him a natural fit for the show's rapid-fire humor. But it was his own groundbreaking series, The Flip Wilson Show, 1970 to 1974, that made him a household name. His outrageous alter ego, Geraldine Jones, with her famous catchphrase, "The devil made me do it," became a cultural phenomenon. Yet, behind the laughter, Wilson's life was marked by personal struggles. Abandoned by his parents and raised in foster care, he spent his youth seeking validation through humor. His romantic relationships were rocky. His 2 marriages, first to Lavinia Patricia Wilson and later to Tuanchai Mackenzie, both ended in divorce. Despite his public success, Wilson's later years were clouded by heavy smoking, which led to a battle with liver cancer. He withdrew from the spotlight, spending his final years in seclusion at his home in Malibu. On November 25, 1998, just shy of his 65th birthday, he succumbed to the disease. The man who had once made America roar with laughter had quietly faded away, leaving behind a legacy that was both triumphant and tinged with sadness. Henry Gibson, born James Bateman on September 21, 1935, in Germantown, Pennsylvania, was the master of deadpan satire on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, playing characters such as the soft-spoken, poetry-reciting man with a flower and the sanctimonious parson. His gentle, almost childlike delivery made his biting wit all the more effective. A graduate of the Catholic University of America, Gibson's early career was shaped by his time as a pilot in the U.S. Air Force before he transitioned into acting. He took his stage name from playwright Henrik Ibsen and gained recognition with roles in The Nutty Professor, 1963, and The Long Goodbye, 1973. After Laugh-In, he enjoyed a steady career in television and film, with memorable roles in Nashville, 1975, The Burbs, 1989, and Magnolia, 1999. Unlike many of his Laugh-In peers, Gibson maintained a relatively stable personal life. He married Lois Geiger in 1966, and they remained together until her death in 2007, raising 3 sons. Despite his professional success, tragedy struck when he was diagnosed with cancer in his later years. He fought the illness privately, rarely speaking about his condition to the public. On September 14, 2009, just a week shy of his 74th birthday, he passed away in Malibu, California. A quiet, understated figure in life, he left behind a legacy of sharp-witted comedy and poignant performances, his passing marking the end of an era for those who cherished his unique presence on screen. Mitzi McCall, born on September 9, 1932, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was a sharp, energetic comedian who made a brief but memorable mark on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. With her quick wit and expressive face, she was a natural at sketch comedy, though she never became as widely recognized as some of her co-stars. McCall found success not just in front of the camera but behind the microphone, becoming an accomplished voice actress in shows like The Flintstones and Batman, the animated series. She shared a long professional and personal partnership with her husband, Charlie Brill, a fellow comedian and actor, and the two remained married for decades, an anomaly in the often tumultuous world of Hollywood relationships. Unlike many of her contemporaries, McCall avoided the darker trappings of fame, maintaining a stable and happy life. While she did not achieve superstardom, she carved out a steady career in television, film, and voice work, content with a life of laughter rather than headlines. Still alive as of recent years, McCall remains a rare example of a comedian who found success without the usual price of tragedy, though time and the inevitable fading of fame have placed her in the shadows of Hollywood history. Richard Dawson, born Colin Lionel M. on November 20, 1932, in Gosport, England, was a charismatic and quick-witted performer who made his mark on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In with his sharp comedic timing and effortless charm. But Laugh-In was just one stop in a career that saw him rise to fame as Corporal Peter Newkirk on Hogan's Heroes and later as the beloved, yet controversial, host of Family Feud. His early years were filled with hardship. He grew up in poverty and left home at 14 to join the Merchant Navy, an experience that toughened him but left him yearning for something greater. After finding success in television, his personal life became a roller coaster. His first marriage to actress Diana Dors, dubbed Britain's Marilyn Monroe, was turbulent, marred by infidelity and clashes of temperament. The couple had 2 sons, but their relationship ended in a bitter divorce. Dawson never fully recovered from the heartbreak and became known for his heavy drinking and womanizing, though he eventually found stability later in life with his second wife, Gretchen Johnson, whom he met while hosting Family Feud. His once boyish charm faded with age, and in his later years, he became reclusive, retreating from the spotlight. Diagnosed with esophageal cancer, he succumbed to the disease on June 2, 2012, at the age of 79. The man who had once made millions laugh with his witty banter and signature kisses on Family Feud died quietly, leaving behind a legacy that was both celebrated and shadowed by personal demons. Alan Suze, born on March 7, 1926, in Ross, California, was a flamboyant and energetic presence on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, best known for his exaggerated comedic style and larger-than-life characters. With his signature high-pitched voice, animated expressions, and over-the-top mannerisms, he brought to life some of the show's most memorable roles, including the effeminate sportscaster Big Al and the perpetually inebriated Uncle Al the Kitty's pal. But beneath the campy humor and outlandish performances was a man who never fully found peace. Sue's early life was marked by struggles. His father, Arthur Sues, was a military man, and his strict upbringing clashed with Alan's artistic sensibilities. After serving in World War II, he studied acting and eventually found work on Broadway before transitioning to television. Though Laugh-In made him famous, typecasting prevented him from achieving the same level of success afterward. He turned to alcohol to cope with professional frustrations, and his personal life remained largely private. Though he was briefly married to Phyllis Gehrig, the relationship ended in divorce, and Sues never remarried. His later years were spent in relative solitude, performing in small theater productions and commercials while battling declining health. On December 1, 2011, he passed away at the age of 85 due to a heart attack in his home in West Hollywood. Though he left behind a legacy of laughter, there was always a sense that Hollywood had never quite known what to do with his unique talent, leaving him an overlooked figure in comedy history. Arte Johnson, born Arthur Stanton Eric Johnson on January 20, 1929, in Benton Harbor, Michigan, was a master of eccentric character comedy, crafting some of the most iconic moments on Laugh-In. His most famous role was Wolfgang, the bumbling German soldier who would peer out from behind a bush and mutter, "Very interesting, but stupid." He also played Tyrone F. Horney, the lecherous old man forever pestering Ruth Buzzy's spinster character Gladys Ormsby. Johnson's comedy was built on precision. Every movement, every glance, every word was carefully calculated for maximum effect. But despite his on-screen hilarity, his life was not without struggle. The son of Abraham Lincoln Johnson and Edith Mackenzie Goldsmith, Arte grew up in a household where expectations were high. He began his career in radio before moving to television and film, finding minor roles in shows like The Twilight Zone and movies such as Love at First Bite, 1979. While he found steady work in voice acting and occasional guest appearances, he never fully escaped the shadow of Laugh-In, a frustration he rarely voiced publicly. His personal life, however, was one of rare stability. He married Gisela Johnson in 1968, and their relationship endured for over 5 decades. In his later years, Johnson was diagnosed with bladder cancer, a battle he fought for years before finally succumbing to heart failure on July 3, 2019, at the age of 90. Though his catchphrases and characters remain timeless, Johnson himself faded into the background of Hollywood, another brilliant comic mind whose genius was often reduced to a single phrase, "Very interesting." Gary Owens, born Gary Bernard Altman on May 10, 1934, in Mitchell, South Dakota, was the golden-voiced announcer whose deep, booming delivery became one of the most iconic elements of Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. His comedic straight man persona, paired with his absurdly scripted lines, made him an essential part of the show's success. But his career stretched far beyond Laugh-In. As a legendary voice actor, he lent his distinctive sound to countless cartoons, most notably as the voice of Space Ghost and numerous characters in The Perils of Penelope Pitstop and The Ren and Stimpy Show. Despite his sunny, affable on-air persona, Owens' personal life was not without sorrow. His relentless work schedule often took him away from his family, straining relationships with those closest to him. He married Arleta Markel in 1956, and they remained together until his death, a rare example of stability in the chaotic world of show business. However, health problems plagued him in his later years. He suffered from type 1 diabetes for much of his life, a condition that took a severe toll on his body. His once powerful voice grew weaker as illness crept in, and on February 12, 2015, he passed away from complications of diabetes at the age of 80. The world lost not just a masterful comedian and voice actor, but a man whose voice had shaped generations of childhoods, his deep tones forever etched in the memories of those who grew up hearing his unmistakable sound. Ruth Buzzy, born on July 24, 1936, in Westerly, Rhode Island, became a comedy icon through her unforgettable performances on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. Her most famous character, the frumpy and perpetually disgruntled Gladys Ormsby, wielded her purse like a weapon, delivering slapstick gold in countless sketches opposite Arte Johnson's lecherous old man character. But beneath the comedic bravado was a woman who craved stability in an industry that rarely offered it. Buzzy's personal life was far from the chaos that plagued many of her peers. She married Kent Perkins in 1978, and unlike so many Hollywood marriages, theirs endured. She found joy in a life beyond the spotlight, eventually stepping away from show business to focus on philanthropy and life on her Texas ranch. However, her later years have been marked by health struggles. In 2022, she suffered a series of strokes, leaving her unable to perform and dramatically altering the once vibrant comedian's life. Though she remains beloved by fans, her public appearances have dwindled, and the woman who once made millions laugh now faces the quiet battles of aging with the same dignity she brought to the screen. Lily Tomlin, born on September 1, 1939, in Detroit, Michigan, carved out a career that transcended laugh-in, evolving into one of the most celebrated comedic actresses of all time. Her breakout characters on the show, including the snarky telephone operator Ernestine and the precocious little girl Edith N., showcased her uncanny ability to inhabit larger-than-life personas. Unlike many of her co-stars, Tomlin never faded into obscurity. Instead, she used laugh-in as a launchpad, transitioning into acclaimed film roles in Nashville, 1975, 9 to 5, 1980, and The Incredible Shrinking Woman, 1981. However, her journey was not without struggles. For decades, she kept her personal life private, navigating the challenges of being a lesbian in an industry that often demanded secrecy. Her relationship with writer Jane Wagner, whom she met in the early 1970s, remained largely hidden from public view until later years, when changing times allowed her to live more openly. The couple finally married in 2013, marking the culmination of a love story that endured Hollywood's pressures. Still actively working, Tomlin continues to find success in projects like Grace and Frankie, proving that even in her 80s, she remains a force in entertainment. While she has avoided the tragic fate of many of her comedic peers, the weight of time, fame, and personal battles has undoubtedly shaped her into the resilient, sharp-witted icon she is today. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, and who do you remember the most? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to watch the latest videos.